Welcome to Executives at the Edge, the podcast from Mplify. Each episode features insights from the top network, cloud, and technology executives, giving you key takeaways to help you grow your revenue and bring solutions to market faster. I'm your host, Pascal Menezes. Join me as we explore thought-provoking perspectives from the leaders and changemakers propelling the AI-powered digital economy forward.
Welcome to the GNE Main Stage. Today we're featuring a session recorded at the Mplify member meeting in Lisbon. Mplify CTO Pascal Menezes explores how AI is reshaping network infrastructure and the role of automation, federation, and network as a service in enabling AI-ready digital infrastructure. Let's listen in.
So I want to talk about really what's going on with the agentic and the AI era. And I think there's a massive opportunity. And as you can see, we started on the journey down on, decades ago around Carrier Ethernet. I came in, we moved up the stack, did automation, and we delivered around network as a service. So a few years ago, we packaged all this under network as a service. Really great stuff. And it was really around the business workloads. And then all of a sudden, AI shows up, and everybody's AI, AIOU, whatever you want to call it. And the bottom line is everybody's AI'd. And so we're moving our assets rapidly towards AI, and this presentation is going to talk about those assets. How do we go from NAS for business to NAS for AI? And that's why I think the market is moving so rapidly that we have to move as fast. And there's a tremendous amount of revenue and money coming into this space, so we really need to capture it. So I think the top level view is that the AI infrastructure that we know will not be the same as the business workloads. There are new actors, new participants in this new environment. And look at the bottom, you have AI sensors, you have AI edges, agents, and factories, and they all play a significant role as new constituents that basically need a new kind of fabric. The fabric has to be programmable, it has to be elastic, it has to be automated, it has to have quality, it has to have security. These are all things, and the great thing is what we've been doing in Mplify is we've been building this over decades, starting with Carrier Ethernet, then we have IP and IPVPNs we defined, wavelengths from our version 2, SD-WAN, we have certifications for some of this, and more certifications even emerging. So we're really in a great position, and on top of it, this fabric has already got NNIs in place. We have a network-to-network interface between the operators for Carrier Ethernet, and we also have it for IPVPNs, and these technologies have been in place for almost decades. So this is good. And we'll see in some more coming up slides that there are even more NNIs are going to come in place for what I call AI exchanges to get to spots where these Carrier Ethernet and IPVPNs NNI are not there today. So that's one. Number two is to do all of this, to stitch these things together, we need an automation plane. And good news, for a decade, Mplify's been doing this east-west automation. So it's a really, really powerful idea that we can take this automation, standardize it, use it for AI, and the presentation will talk a lot about that. The second part is that I'll talk about the federation. We had a great board review yesterday, and with the big leadership board tab, got some great insights. And from that, we've learned a lot about what is really the value that we can deliver to our members. And I'm going to articulate that value. And the plan that we plan on executing, which will be in Boston, will give the more detailed roadmap plan, pricing, how we'll execute, and so on, the phases and so on. So stay tuned for that, but I'll give you a really nice overview of this idea of the federation. So at Global NAS event in Dallas in November, we actually talked about this AI strategy, which I'm going to go over, but I'm just going to highlight it. And the board voted on it, and the membership voted on it. And we said, yes, let's execute on that. And the committees and Daniel and Kevin and the marketing, we all went down this path to execute on this. It has 4 major themes, which I'll cover pretty rapidly. And it's connectivity, for sure, and automation. These are the short terms that we said we got to really get right because this is important. And then we said, the longer tail things that we have to look at is cybersecurity for AI, and then finally, how will sovereign AI play out specifically for the edges? The edges are going to be things that our members can monetize, and so we want to be able to enable that. So this is very critical. So the first starts with in the connectivity, we have training and inference. And I think there's massive opportunities in all of our transport technologies we've been delivering. In the far left, you have training. Training needs tons and tons of bandwidth only because the way we train today is we need to take hundreds of thousands of GPUs and make them look like one. And it's called scale up, scale out, and now scale across. But in essence, when you're training a model, you train a model and all these hundreds of thousands of GPUs have to synchronize like one. And so you cannot have any loss. You need fast speeds. The last bit in for one GPU coming, last GPU waiting, then kind of stalls everything else. So it's really, really critical that bandwidth, no loss of any data, jitter, all these things play a really important role on training. So that's how we do training today. Training is going to change, and it's going to go to an asynchronous model, and you're going to see about 2.5 gigabits now to be able to use, and that's good for carry Ethernet not having to use wavelength. So a lot happening in training, so I won't spend too much energy here, but the good news is Mplify has the assets, both in carry Ethernet and specifically in wavelengths, the way we're doing training today. And then the new world coming out is AI inference. AI inference is, if you look at Jensen's keynote in March, he talked about how powerful, how important AI inference is going to be to the world. And I think this is actually a more economic, viable point for where we need to be, because we have SD-WAN, we have carry Ethernet, we have carry Ethernet going over broadband now, or layer 2 broadband, we have IP, and I think those things are the technologies that we can stitch together, and I'll show you in the next slide, to build that inference infrastructure by having the automation and stitching together the different access loops to the models and so on. And so the bottom line is that I believe that we have a really great opportunity just in the inference side to bring in all of our technologies, because models will live in different spots, and you're going to have these actors, agents, and all these sensors that have to connect to these models. And it's going to need an infrastructure that can deliver on quality, security, performance, fault, all that stuff that we built in carry Ethernet. We have in IP VPNs, and so on. So even if we have to do our carry Ethernet services, which has protection, performance fault, and run it over a layer 2 broadband network as an access network, we can still deliver some of these great features that AI needs. So that's a really powerful area. So in the next part of automation, we said, okay, let's take our API. So this is real important. We spent a decade since I've been here, and literally millions of dollars, and all our members and all our co-chairs and our communities have led this drive to deliver on this. It's been a 10-year decade journey, tremendous assets. If you just go look at the SDK, you'll see business requirements, use case, dev guides, APIs, schema guides, all kinds of assets, tooling, and so on. So it's really, really powerful. And it's not, vaporware, and it's kind of like, just coming out in alpha states. It's actual production quality. It's using in production. And on top of it, it is all standardized pretty well. Most of it's standardized, and maybe going to version 2s and 3s. Now, these APIs can do anything from an address to quote to an order. So it's got to work from day 0 to day n. Address, quote, order, provisioning, test the service, performance, make sure it's running right, fault management, trouble ticketing, billing and settlement. So there's about 20 APIs I've kind of just put into this kind of generic workflow. What you want to take from this is we have the full life cycle from being able to get an address to finally get it. So from an address to finally getting resolved with your bill. And that's really powerful. And this goes across the ecosystem. So it's not within your provider's network. This is across the ecosystem. That's kind of what we invested all our automation into. So this goes with these APIs. They're based on TM-Form version 4. We modified them as an industry to make sure we have interoperability, and that was the key point. And with that interoperability, we said, okay, we need to also become AI aligned. And so we wrapped all these APIs in the last release, Kylie, with MCP. Everybody should know what MCP is, Model Context Protocol. It's how AI wants to talk to everything external to itself. And so instead of integrating APIs into its own self, agents or models, it talks MCP, and everything outside of AI needs to have an MCP wrapper or server to their API. So that's what we've done. So that's been released, and we'll continue to evolve that. It's a reference implementation in Python. It's done for every API. And what we did was we made sure every API and every operations on that API, which sometimes are very complex, maps exactly to the MCP methods on the other side that technically the methods, but the bottom line is it maps correctly, and so that anybody can take that reference implementation and build out a commercial solution for security and scale. So that's real important. The next part is that we've got payloads that no one else has, and these payloads are going to become even more important in the agentic world. These payloads actually describe, for Carrier Ethan, all the attributes, and they have product payloads, service payloads, and OEM payloads, depending on which APIs you're talking about. If you're quoting, ordering, it's product payloads. If you're provisioning, it's going to be service payloads. And if you're going to do performance and fault management, it's going to be these OEM payloads. And all of these payloads basically come together, and they can be stacked together into an API, or you can use just one payload and one API. And I won't get into the details of it, but it's been a great way to how to take and reuse APIs to different types of services in NAS. And this is called polymorphism. We took it from the philosophy that TM formed, but we really, really matured it and evolved it. And it's being used in all our business, not for NAS, for business. And Stan talked about the adoption, and we'll cover that a little bit here. So the other part is that these payloads we have are very good, but they're in YAML, and they're not really designed for AI agents. So what we're doing is we're upgrading these payloads to be much more friendly to AI. I won't get into the specifics, but it's not that much work. But basically, every part of that payload has an attribute will point back to the actual standard so that an AI agent can understand what is in that standard and what the attribute's supposed to mean and how it relates to each other in other areas from the standard. So that's very powerful. So the agent doesn't have to go look up standards. It's right in the payload. And finally, the work we're doing here, I think this is a very critical part. I talked about the MCP server and how we're wrapping all our APIs, and that's the right side. So the right side says, hey, if you want to talk to me from AI, or AI wants to talk to anything external to a system, it says, I'm going to go through an MCP server, whether it be a quote, order, or performance or fault APIs. The MCP server wraps that, and so it's all hidden. And the backside is where, behind the MCP server is where the BSS systems and OSS system lives with APIs. So this is the world that you want to interoperate. And so now the new constituents coming in are agents. Agents are going to be the ones interacting with these servers. And it's not going to be, humans and portals, and that's all going to go away. And it's going to be these AI agents. Now, of course, these agents can't do everything on their own. They have to service some things to human beings, get permission. But for most part, they will have complete workflow. And these agents have to be, we have to make a decision. Do we want to build agents to match against our APIs and MCP implementation? But we don't really have an agent framework, but there's so many agent frameworks coming out from ServiceNow, Salesforce, Google, Microsoft. There's OpenClaw, NemoClaw, there's LangGraph, and there's so many agent platforms. We said, let's build out blueprints. So that if we build an agent blueprint, then you basically, for every one of these APIs that I showed you that has an MCP server, then what we can do is take the blueprint, run on anybody's agent building platform, and render out through that platform, their coding platform, render out an agent that should match and work against our MCP server. So the community is actively doing this. We're doing the first prototypes, working with some great of our members to actually validate this, so it's very powerful. This idea is so powerful that it might be in the future that the MCP server might be, I do say the future, might go away and it'll be agent to agent. So the agents will be on the BSS systems and the OSS systems, and another agent is interacting with it. And so really the idea of MCP and APIs kind of go away, and it's all done on microservices inside the actual environment of the system. So that means that, number one, the agent blueprint becomes a very strategic asset for us. And number two, what is these agents trying to do? The agents have to be thought things about how to interact with that API and the MCP server. So every API has these operations, which are state machines, and the agent needs to understand these state machines. So that's what the blueprint does. But it also have to understand, because we put data models, these payloads, into these APIs, it has to understand these payloads, what's carry Ethernet and what's access E-line, and all the attributes. That we have to ground those payloads with the state machines so that agents can really reason through and do its work, whether it's buying, quoting, ordering, performing. So this is key. So this is what these agent blueprints do. And how it does it, you stay tuned. You can see an agent blueprint coming out shortly. So that's, one was connectivity. Number two was automation. Those were our short-term goals. And I think we're well down the track. And thanks to our committees, we are really executing. Thanks to Daniel, he revamped the whole process into 1-month sprints. And I think we're getting some really great headways in our contractors, our members, and so on. The third part was, hey, let's basically talk about cybersecurity, because it's not just about connectivity. We have to secure, in a NAS for AI environment, we have to have cybersecurity for AI. And so we already launched our cybersecurity program for NAS for business, which was our SASE program, SSE, Zero Trust program that had standards, certification, and we realized, but okay, we've done that and we've already launched it. We've already launched phase 1, which was testing all the vendors, and now we're in phase 2 testing the providers. And that's for SASE, SD-WAN, SSE, Zero Trust. But now, cybersecurity for AI is very different. And so we have to think about how do we evolve our program to make sure our NAS for AI incorporates this cybersecurity for AI piece. So in our phase 3, which we're still working out, baking out, and we're working with our members and our technology advisory board who are all in this cybersecurity space, we're working to figure this out. Now, each one of our members of vendors, they already have products. They're coming out rapidly. This is where the market's moving to in cybersecurity. You've heard of Mythos and Cyber from OpenAI and all that. We are seeing that the cybersecurity space is massively evolving rapidly to protect AI. And the bad guys, the threat actors, are using AI to go attack. So we have to be very, make sure our NAS for AI suite has a certification program. So we're going to be baking that out. Stay tuned. And Isabel's driving that. And we have a new test partner to go and deliver on that. So that's real important. The other part is that the quantum day, the Q day, is coming faster than we thought. I think it's predicted, Google said it was 2032, something like 2027, where quantum computers are going to be real. So the harvest now and decrypt later problem has to be managed now. So we have to deliver on quantum safe networking. Governments are mandating it. We're seeing even the US government's going to mandate. Many governments around the world are mandating it. Many companies expect it. All the transmissions I talked about, transports, even SD-WAN, carry Ethernet, will all have to have this quantum safe capabilities in it. So there's great technologies on it, which is post-quantum cryptography, whatever. But I can't say it, it's too early in the morning. Everybody knows me, I'm not a morning person. Anyways, there's great work being done on it, and so we're utilizing it. And the good news is we actually released the standard of the business requirements use case from the CBC Commercial and Business Committee to actually talk about what are the use cases around it. And then we're looking to certify this. So under our security certification, we'll be looking how can we certify this kind of technology. So this becomes very important. Now, as we go up further to the longer parts of our strategy with the edge and the sovereignty of what's coming in, everybody talking about digital sovereignty, which then relates to sovereign AI. But really, at the end of the day, our members have a tremendous asset. Of course, they want to build their own models. They want to control their own environment. AI for every country is strategic, important. But more importantly, that there is basically the edge. The edge has not been really monetized by our members. And the edge has a huge potential, not only because for inference, where we can get shorter times for latencies and so on, but more important that all of these foundational frontier models are built with ecosystems in mind. And like NVIDIA or Google, Microsoft, they have 30,000 ISVs who are taking models, finely tuning those models to specific use cases like smart cities, and smart warehouses, and so on. And all of those models will live somewhere, and they're living at the edges. And so those edges can be monetized. So we believe our members can take those models from the ISV ecosystem and deploy them out, whether it be GPU as a service or model as a service. It's a massive opportunity. And also, if you looked at NVIDIA's release of the AI grid, they've actually also announced the ability to take and put at the edges, AI inference. And this is really powerful. So there's a standard called Ultra Ethernet Consortiums, so we're working with them. And basically, it takes RDMA over Converged Ethernet, and that's how AI grids work too. But opportunities, we can map that because it's a layer 4 technology. We can map that into layer 2 carrier Ethernet and map the needs for congestion control and the latencies and all that into our classes of services and our protection capabilities and our performance information. So that's a really powerful idea. We can map all the things you're seeing in the scale up, scale out, and scale across area used in AI to actually use that in our transports on carrier Ethernet or IP VPNs. So very powerful. So that leads our strategy, what we were talking about from last year in November at Global NAS event. And now, today, yesterday at the board, we went through our federation strategy, which I'm going to now talk to you. This federation was designed by the board that we will go ahead and execute on it, but come up for Boston in September, a plan. So Kevin and Daniel and the committees and the co-chairs are going out there to go look at exactly what that roadmap, the plan, the pricing, what the feature set is, and which vendors, commercial vendors, open source, should we use to do this. So let me talk about what this is all about. So really what we want to do is our members have to come together. What the internet did 40 years ago for everybody, it allowed anybody to talk to anybody instantly. You just threw a packet in, a packet came out. Of course, it didn't provide quality. It didn't provide many things like availability or things like that. But what we have to do is we have to build and stitch together this AI fabric, and we have to do it in an on-demand supply chain. We cannot wait through the automation I talked about. We cannot wait for our supply chains to say, oh, wait a minute, I'll get you a quote in 3 months because I'm going to have to check it out. No one can wait in this world 3 months. It's like if you want to order something on Amazon or you want to get a taxi, you want to wait 3 months, they ain't going to happen. Okay, so this is what we can't, we're not living in this world. We have to build an on-demand AI supply chain. So that's, and the constituents involved here are all kinds. You got to get to neoclouds and to hyperscalers where they have GPUs and models, and you also have to talk to telcos who have access loops, and you have technology provider clouds that are having and securing the AI in SASE and cybersecurity for AI, and so there's many of our constituents, and the providers are doing address lookups globally. So all of these parts have to play in the ecosystem, and it's very critical. So this is a bit of an eyesore, but I'll walk you through it. So at the very top, the big box says AI service provider. That's a service provider. The new buyers of that service is going to be AI agents. So the blueprint we're building, as I talked about, will be allowing anybody's AI agent in the enterprise can take that blueprint and build an AI agent for coding, ordering, or performance of fault. And we've already talked to our ELC, our Enterprise Leadership Council, and they said that's very important that we need observability, for example, and fault information. So that's already, we believe it's going to be the future. The other part is we already wrapped our APIs with MCP, so that's already done. And so we've given to the ecosystem, say, if you want to have a standard way to represent your full life cycle from everything from an address lookup to quote to ordering to performance fault, trouble ticketing, billing, selling, we have it. It's done. Just put it in the MCP servers, put it in front of your customers, and they will build agents. Or you build agents for them and give it to them. But the bottom line is, of course, they can use portals, they can use the old ways, but they'll eventually use agents. And agents will run through workflow and interact with that service provider. Now, as it goes into the service provider, this is where we don't get involved. This is where TM Forum is good at. This is where CNCF is good at. with Kubernetes, and there's infrastructure as code and all variations of that. And so that complexity inside of service providers is something we're not tackling, but we are going to work with these other standards organizations to say, we need you. You got to get automated, because if you get automated, then the ecosystem can be really that supply chain we need. So this is very important. So I don't want to downgrade the importance of that, but we are going to work with that. So now to the right of this diagram, you see this other AI service providers and this AI exchange. This is the part where providers will talk to other providers, on-ramps to hyperscalers, neoclouds, technology providers, whatever. But more importantly, there will be new colos, new data centers, new edges coming in that the carry Ethernet NNIs that are currently in place and the IP VPNs currently in place will not work. So we have to be able to have this world where the AI exchange will show up, where we can build NNIs, network-to-network interfaces for the data plane. Because if you don't have a data plane, you have an automation plane, you can say, I can do it, but I have to spend now 2 months to install a data plane to connect the two networks together, or two providers together. That's still a 2-month problem. It doesn't solve nothing. So the data planes have to be there first and at the right spots, and then we have to have an automation plane, and then we can get to an on-demand supply chain in seconds. That's the goal. Okay, so let's talk about how we make this federation work. So think about it that every member will have a digital twin. We won't get into the details of it, but the world is going to digital twin. So every member will have a digital twin. The digital twin will represent everything of your services like Stan talked about. So think about Stan's report. He has a report that detailed everybody, what vendor they're doing, what APIs they support, what services they support. Think about if I could put that in a catalog that's always up to date. That's what we're building. The federation, what we'll build out is a catalog that's dynamic, it's digital. All the members can feed into it through their digital twin. They get a digital twin that has a digital wallet. It's their digital twin. They put in all their information about what they want to put in, and they surface that into the marketplace, into what we call the federation catalog. And then the real goal is we want to deliver our members to get to the AI deal I talked about. When the deal's on the street, how fast can you get to a deal is the goal for our members. We want them to win the deals on the street. We don't want them to wait for 6 months, 3 months, and lose the deal. We want to make them win over the top operators. And to do that, we have to move very fast. And so the catalog that I'm going to show you, this digital catalog, is every member's capability of how you can, what services you can do, what APIs you support, and so on. And we'll get into the details. And just like Stan's report, think of that as a catalog, but now digitized and always up to date by every member. Can I use this? No. Okay, next slide. Oh, there we go. So the digital twin, as I talked about, has this agent, autonomous agent, that will create the catalog. And the catalog actually represents again, the member's information. Are you certified? What APIs? Do you have support MCP? Do you support quote? Do you quote order? Can you do observability and performance fault? What payloads you support? And all of this is completely trusted, so that no one can fake a digital twin in the federation, because it's all rooted on trust. I'll cover that later. Next slide. And so this is an example. So the demand side, let's say an agent comes in to the catalog, and the catalog, just think of it as living in this kind of, it's a smart contract living inside this hyperspace. And it's not on a website. And then basically the AI agent queries the catalog, asks a bunch of questions, and it says, okay, here's what I think members can help you with that. And then basically the catalog gets out of the way and allows members to go directly. So I'll show that next slide. So that's it. So basically, the catalog is a way to discover. Now, we see this today in every industry. When you go for Uber, Uber is basically brokering the driver and the buyer. If you look at Amazon, the buyer and the seller, and you look at dating apps, they're doing it. So it's always this intermediary broker catalog that helps to broker the deal, and that's kind of what we're talking about. And in all of those cases, the intermediary never gets involved. They just basically broker the deal, and basically allow the members to go directly. So we will provide the catalog to all our members as digital twins, and then you guys go directly and we'll provide the API assets and some governance of how you guys should operate and so on. So this is very powerful, very, very great idea. And so we get out of the way. We're not taking money off it. We're not trying to take money of transactions. We're just trying to facilitate a great supply chain on demand. And that's really what our members, we want them to win the deals. So this is how it works. I'll give you a little use case. You got an AI agent. This could be an enterprise buying from a provider or a bunch of providers. This could be the provider that at the retail side looking for wholesale loops. So it can go either way. But there's a buyer demand side, and it checks the catalog and says, hey, I need carry Ethernet in Europe, and I need a class of service to high, and I need 100 gigabits. Who can service me that? And by the way, my automation plane supports, quote, I got address quote to order, and my release is, Grace. And so it's carry Ethernet payload. So it goes to the catalog goes, oh, here's a bunch of providers in Europe that could do that. I don't have all the details. I don't know if you can handle all the addresses that you want, but it's a meta information. It's and now you should go and talk to them directly. Excellent, there you go. And so you go talk to them directly. You're the list of providers, talk to them directly. Now you can ask them really detailed questions about can they do it. So the catalog is more of just a broker, and then we get out of the way and allow our members to just interact directly with our APIs and our assets. Okay, this is all built on trust infrastructure. I'm not going to get into details of this, but for 3 years, we've been prototyping this in acceleration projects. This is based on standards called W3C, decentralized self-sovereign IDs and decentralized identities. And it's all very secure. It's being used all over the world in other industries. We're going to use it, and that will be the plan in September to tell you exactly how we're going to use this. And finally, the last thing I want to take away from this is we want our members to win deals on the street, the first mover advantage. So that's the far right. But let me talk starting from the far left. Right now, we want our members to be able to deliver different classes of capabilities for the AI economy. Airlines industry has done that where they've offered economy light, economy plus, economy premium, business class, first class. I think our providers are going to have to do the same thing for inference or training. There's going to be different requirements, and we have to package up different things. So I think that's easy. We've got these in the technology for classes, services, protection, all that stuff. So I think that would be easy, but we just got to package it right. The second one is we're not monetizing the AI era properly completely yet. We got to have those edges where there's going to be more money than just connectivity. We could have cybersecurity for AI, where more money secured the AI. That's all more money on top of connectivity, and I think that's an opportunity where we monetize. Finally, we cannot have operational efficiencies lasting months or weeks. In AI, that's not acceptable. Everybody's talking they want it real time in basically milliseconds and seconds, not even minutes. But okay, minutes we'll wait for, like we do it for prompts. We have to wait for the model to come back. But certainly not weeks or months. To get a price quote from anything across the ecosystem to tell you, I'll get you a quote in 2 weeks or a month, that's not going to win a deal on the street, right? So that's really what we want. We want our members to win the deal on the street, to compete effectively against the over-the-top operators, and have the ecosystem glue in and be very, very, very functional in the AI era, like you see in many other industries. Thank you for listening to Executives at the Edge, brought to you by Mplify. Be sure to follow, share, and leave a review. Catch every episode on your favorite platform or visit us at mplify.net.